Hello, everybody. It's nice to be here again. It's my favorite conference. It's not complacency, actually. I really mean it. So, this presentation is basically articulated in like 3 acts. So, one example, one moment of deeper insights, and then a few solutions by example. And then I will trigger a Q&A section, and then one final consideration, okay? If it lasts less than 50 minutes, it's fine. No one should ever complain for having some free life as a gift, okay? I mean, value-driven, it's not time-driven. Okay, so you don't care about what I did in the past. The validity of my arguments shouldn't depend on what I did before being here, though a little bit of context might help you frame where I come from, and the reason why I came to a few conclusions. So, just let me rearrange this, please. Presenter view. Whoop. Okay, so basically, you have to think about me like a nerd. Okay, I'm a basic nerd. I started coding in 1984. Okay. When I was 6 years old on my Commodore 64, you have to think about me as one of those kids in Stranger Things, okay? Like BMX bikes, Commodore computers, and role-playing game. I'm one of those. And also, I keep my nerdity rating very high even today, okay? I built this during the pandemics. We got plenty of time, and so I decided to 3D print an hexapod and control it with 18 servos, writing all the software in C++, okay? So that's, I mean, just to, okay. I mean, this is a very important disclaimer because I will talk to you, I mean, this talk is titled Beyond Code. So just to set the expectation, okay? So we're not talking about coding practices. I founded 3 ventures in 3 times. I basically destroyed the first 2 companies, and the third one went much better. And so I stopped caring about code and gradually moved to process, and I will explain you why. And then I moved even outbound, taking care of the whole business models, okay? So basically, does this company will this company ever make money out of these activities, including coding? And I worked with, like, this is a startup studio, Jungle Studio. Where is the laser? The laser doesn't work, okay? And, I mean, corporates, so many scales. But the point is that I've been an entrepreneur and still am. And this is a very important thing, all the sports I'm passionate about involve risk. And this is a key point, because we will talk today about risk, and what is risk in digital entrepreneurship, and what are the implications for anyone who thinks that coding is enough to have a successful digital business. And it's a choreography that, I mean, I explicitly asked for this. And so I really do think that risk, I'm using in this context and in coding and in business, the definition of courage provided by Kent Beck, extreme programming author, which is the systematic removal of risk rather than facing risk out of a positive emotion about it, okay? So it's not gambling, okay? It's risk removal. And today we're going to talk about risk removal. Okay, so enough. It's 3 minutes and 29 seconds now, and so my presentation is over. So you know enough about me. Now, I will tell you a little bit more about the second company I destroyed. It starts with a product. It was about a booking system, okay? It was in 2006. So many years ago, but I mean, I think that's enough. So, it was a platform developed to support the booking process across several markets. Hotel rooms, apartments. There was no Airbnb at the time. There was no Booking.com. It was way so many years ago. And we set up this company to develop this product, and we started caring. So I was in the very heart of my growth as an Agile practitioner. I had coded the first unit test in 2003, so it was like 3 years into it. So basically, it was a young enthusiast practitioner. And also, the 1 year before starting this company, I had already read the Blue Book, the Eric Evans Domain-Driven Design book. And so I was developing this product with all the good intention, caring about all the good processes, all the good practices, all the good architecture, applying all the patterns, and having all the rituals, and pair programming, and unit tests, and integration tests. And okay, so you got the list, okay? So basically, it was the core of the company was that I and my development team would do everything top-notch, perfection level, no compromise. But this is how it ended, okay? So it proved not to be enough. And you know, anyone who might think that being perfect from a technical point of view is enough can use this single counterexample as the only counterexample that is needed to deny a general statement. Use my experience, so don't try it at home. Being technically perfect is not enough to build a digital product, the successful digital product. Okay. So everything was about safety and reducing risk from a technical point of view, and everything was about reducing risk when it comes to debugging, when it comes to dysfunctional behaviors, when we are passing requirements around, and all the things that you know in the Agile. I'm not absolutely ditching the Agile message. I'm just today, my goal is to extend it, rather. So anything about Agile message and everything we read in the books is about reducing the risk that something might go wrong on the technical stack. But in the ISO-OSI stack, you know, the last layer is political, human, and blah, blah, blah. So you got from physical and then blah, blah, blah. The 8th layer is what happens when we are trying to make money out of it. Because that's the only goal. If I sell you, what are you selling today? You, as professionals, what are you selling? It's an open question. Knowledge? So I can pay you for you to know as much as you want, as much as you can. Yes. I disagree. Any other answer?
Experience.
So I'm basically paying you a salary for you to build your experience.
No.
Fine.
Paying for my experience in e-commerce.
To get? When you pay something, you want to get something. And we have to distinguish what we use from what we get. That's the point, okay? Still, thanks though. So we are seduced by this narrative about failing fast. And yeah, TDD makes us fail fast. All the iterative and incremental approach makes us fail fast, and we want to fail fast to learn because the comfort zone, blah, 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 blah. You already know about this, okay? This is not what we talk, I'm assuming you have been soaked in this message enough for me today to take it for granted. But what I think about being so dedicated to the technical safety and to this fail-fast narration is that we end up having like a very successful surgery operation with a dead patient. The operation went fine, but the patient died. But that's the detail. I mean, who cares? I mean, we use this fucking technology, laser technology. We remotely operate. So that's the point. And we don't care about dead business models. We don't care about dead companies. We don't care about failing fast if it's not cheap too. So how can we fail fast and cheap? This is the question. Disclaimer, cheap is not just money-wise, it's time-wise, risk-wise, enthusiasm-wise, emotion-wise, whatever-wise, okay? And we go back to this slide that I showed you before. And that's why, we also know, who cares about local optimization? Have you ever heard about local optimization? Okay, caring too much about code is a way of local optimizing. And that's why I started reasoning, for example, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I started thinking, hey, but what if this process keeps on asking me the wrong thing? What is the point of keeping on discussing agile stuff if our agreements don't allow me to go the agile way for real? But now, then, after 12 years, I'm still here thinking, hey, but reality is such a mess that we are always struggling to find some way to express requirements in a clear way. So I ended up asking myself, from a very epistemological point of view, from a point of view, if we decide to analyze the way reality is, do you know the difference between complexity and complicated? At least a few of you, okay, fine. So if reality is complex, is it even possible to gather requirements in a clear way? If we accept the meaning of complex and we state that the reality of requirements and user experience and blah, blah, blah is complex, then the answer has to be no, it's not possible to gather requirements in a clear way, which from an engineering point of view, it's a nightmare. So how can we de-risk reality if we cannot de-risk the reality of our job, if we cannot de-risk it through clarity? And this is what I want to talk to you about today. How can we de-risk the reality of software development and digital product development without undersampling it, if you are nerd enough to get the meaning. So basically, if we don't want to have clear requirements that are removing complexity from reality, giving us the illusion that we dominate reality. Also, two last considerations before we move on. We also hear a lot about purpose. Have you ever heard this word in the last 12 months, at least once? I did. So the purpose of your work, of your organization, and so on. We put a lot of emphasis on the concept of purpose, but how can we truly pursue any purpose if we continually limit the expression of the quality we are capable of? That means 12 years ago, it meant, how can I be truly agile if the contract is not agile? And now it means, how can be truly agile if the business hopes to be successful on requirements developed 2 years ago, and we are trying to raise funds for a company that is supposed to work the way we conceived it 2 years ago? It's always the same thing, I know. But somehow I'm proposing you a fractal approach to the validation of digital products. Everything we learned in TDD is still valid. We only need some way to transpose TDD concepts into business. Or at least be ready to accept or be ready to induce such transformations in our organizations. I know many of you are not in charge of the product, but that's exactly one of the problems, actually. Also, we developed risk aversion. If we don't expose the most critical assumptions of our business in a cheap way, we will get more conservative. That's the problem. That's the solution. I remember the relief in the early years of this century when I discovered unit testing in 2003. I perfectly remember the relief of knowing that something truly worked, at least the way I defined it to work. And I remember how conservative my approach was when I was relegated in the corner of continuous debugging. And so I wanted to replicate this kind of relief in every other job that I did in in the rest of, I mean, in the last 20 years, 21 years. Because, I mean, if our bets only aim for average returns with average chances, what is the point of betting? If we build a software that works so and so because we don't go too far because, I mean, too much work. Let's keep it clear, let's keep it trivial. But what about our businesses then? So what if too many times I just hear, no, we cannot do this. I mean, have you ever heard of we cannot, it's different, this statement, okay, in the technical world. Okay, you might not know, and I insist, might not know, maybe some of you know, that this is the statement that I hear a lot even in fundraising and entrepreneurship context. We got money. We got the skills. Why don't we do this product? It's too much work. We don't know. We might waste hours and hours. Fine. So how can we create courage as per defined by Kent Beck? How can we systematically address this risk? One very fruitful way to conceive it is to we always think about, if I tell you risk, you are probably thinking about the probability that something goes wrong. And we are taught about de-risking stuff by reducing the probability that something bad happens. That is called planning. Planning is the activity in which we try to foresee everything wrong that might happen. And even if we care more about planning than the plan, as sometimes someone suggests, still we are trying to control the future. So what if we instead focus on the impact and we shape our actions in order to be less dependent on the future outcomes of reality, so that somehow it's something that can be summed up as, if it goes wrong, who cares? I really mean it. If it goes wrong, who cares? That's the relief I felt with TDD. So it's like, the test is red. Then I have made choices that are too complicated. Let's keep it even simpler. Let's make it just green, and then refactor. Who cares? Who cares if it goes wrong? That's the feeling I want to get while developing my digital products. Product development, though, if we get the tradition of the 20th century, has always meant to be an orchestration task. So where we have customer insight, marketing plan, the logistics, the communication plan, the social media strategy, the packaging too. The packaging is really, it's very beautiful, but will they ever like this product? We don't know, but the packaging is so beautiful. And approvals. Approvals as a cross-cutting nightmare that you have in all the companies. So everyone depends on someone else's approval, very far from what the real action is happening. They don't know anything about the customers because we perform the research. They don't know anything, but they are the ones that need to approve what we learned, which is something like, I learned to go cycling when I was a kid, and my grandfather had to approve my learning. And so we try to have these D-days, okay? Like I said, everything is ready, we launch the product. That's the tradition that we inherit from the 20th century. But that's waterfall sneaking back into our game. Risk, also, we have to say, has a holistic nature. So you could ask, I'm reading a few examples, okay? So you could ask a consultant how to be compliant with tax regulations. This is what you pay him or pay them for. But you might not know that you have chosen an unskilled consultant. You can bet on the right cryptocurrency. You can see your cryptocurrency go very high, but you might choose the wrong exchange. Or an exchange at all. True story. Yeah. You might pursue the best software architecture, but your salary might be tied to the wrong product, so you might be very skilled. But have you ever seen a friend being fired not because of their skills, but because of the failure of the product they were working for? Have you ever seen this happening? Fine, we get the point. And the second dynamics, the second point about risk that I want to focus on is that risk is not static. Risk, being holistic, it depends on the action of others. And depending on the action of others, it's never final. Your assessment of risk is never final. And that's a huge problem. Have you ever heard about ergodicity? It's fine. I'm not giving you a lecture on what ergodicity is. Just to give it a very rough definition is, if you play Russian roulette, and you have like 60 people playing Russian roulette, 10 out of 60 will die, okay? You get it. So like we got six shots in the gun. But if you have Simon, Herr Linda, are you German? Also Herr Linda. So if we have Simon playing 60 rounds of Russian roulette, what are the chances that he's going to survive? He's not going to survive 50 out of 60, okay? You're basically dead. If you play 60 rounds of Russian roulette alone, you wouldn't probably, unless. So, and stepping from ergodic processes, and we always assume that processes are ergodic, so that means that the ensemble average is the same as the time average. This is an ergodic process. We have this assumption everywhere. We always talk about steady state. This is in Italian is a regime. So basically it's when you have like a transition phase and then you got a final steady state, okay? And we always plan for this final steady state in which we have like, yes, long-term things will stabilize and this is what is going to happen. We will get our data, our stats, and everything will have statistical meaning. Unfortunately though, we all die and companies die and our development efforts die in the transition phase, while you are trying to bring them to the steady state. It makes no point thinking long-term if you're not sure you will survive short-term. And this is the morale behind this ergodicity concept, is that, and that's one I finally managed to convey briefly. Rather than focusing on how to get successful, I would focus, and I will focus, and I currently focus on how to never die. If you never die, eventually success will match your actions. Do you see this point? Because if a meteor strikes me now, if I die today choking on a falafel outside of this room, please remember me this way. That's the key message today. If we'll see now a few techniques, but that's the key point, the key message. If you never die, you will be successful. So rather than focusing on how to be successful, let's focus on how to never die, on how to be robust. Let's focus on the impact of the risk we are facing so that no matter the probability, if we always survive, we learn cheap enough to go on. UX research has always been traditionally the way I have been advocating for to reduce the risk of digital products development efforts. So like, at least we got user research. So we got, hey, what is truly needed? Unfortunately though, most of the UX agencies and professionals still assume that they can deliver research once up front, and then they can go working for another customer. And this is a problem because we have waterfall sneaking again in. It's more complicated. And now, for the last minutes, I want to give you a few examples of what I did in practice to reduce risk in digital product development according to these principles, okay, this concept I explained to you up front. A very useful technique that you might know is user story mapping. Raise your hand if you know user story mapping. Okay, so quite mainstream now, which is cool. I want to, so there was this food delivery service that we created in Torino and Milano. It's called Mammoth. And it's basically, you don't have to know too much about it, but the point is that because I want to de-risk the first release with you together as an exercise, okay? So I'm giving you a few requirements. So it was a food delivery application, sorry. Obviously, we wanted to provide features to order lunches, okay? The kill feature of this application is that you don't, they are actually existing. So the killer feature is that the unfair advantage is that you don't choose what you will eat. Believe it or not, it works. I wanted the developers, so we had tons of user research in the beginning, and we wanted to release the first few versions of this application to the market once per week, okay? So in order to gather feedback from, okay, nice. The user research gave us a few insights, but what if people have to endure the struggle to download the application from the App Store, pay for the service? So basically, what is the end-to-end situation with our users? And so rather than waiting for a few months and hope that it will work, we decided to release the application once per week. But when we started talking to the developers, this meant if you want to plan your lunches, you need a calendar. A new feature. You can book a lunch far in time. So you also want to cancel a lunch because, you might have problems. So what are you doing? Well, you're spending money and wasting food if you have to go to Berlin to talk to the KanDDDinsky? No. So you have to cancellation of an order, another feature. Consider, this is a list of features that I never asked for, okay? So that were just implied by the few assumptions. If you can cancel a lunch, then you want to get your money back, right? I'm not eating, I want my money back. And so if you want your money back, all of a sudden you need a wallet. So you needed a calendar, you need a cancellation feature, you need some way to plan, and you need some way to store your money somewhere. You got tons of features and you are asking your developers, in 1 week I want this done. Obviously they were like, no, it cannot be done. So I'm asking you today, how could we make this possible? How could we reduce the scope of this application in order to be released in 1 week? There are many ways. We found one. I will tell you after yours. You don't ask for money. So basically, you give your lunches for free.
No, you ask for money afterwards.
Yeah, after. Okay, so Christina suggests you can ask for money after you have delivered the lunch. That's a good idea. What else? You don't book, so? You have? That's how we did. I will tell you more later. Then what else?
You rely on another service which is behind the closet so that you can manually do things until you reach confirmation that it will be useful.
So it's called the Wizard of Oz. So you basically fake the service and you manage it manually. That's a good point. That's what we did up to that point. So basically, we had already a few months of making it manually, so like ordering online, but actually it was not online. It was like us delivering the food, like with designers, scoping down the area, so it was just half of the city of Turin rather than entire cities, but still, that's a way. Another way, just the last one. Squeeze it. One? Yeah, so basically you got one restaurant, but how do you manage the customers in that case?
You don't have to deal with the picking from multiple places.
Yeah, but that's the risking one part. So, okay, fine. But how do you remove the wallet, the calendar? Sale, okay. Another one from this side. All the ideas coming from this side. Okay, fine. So, what we did is that we decided to, so it doesn't matter if you don't understand Italian. It's just like here you have SOS Mammoth. It's very, pretty plain. And we developed the first version with just of Fame, which is I'm hungry. Okay, so you could push this button and order the next lunch only. So we removed the calendar, so in order to remove the need for canceling lunches, in order to remove the feature about a wallet. So basically, if it was before 11 a.m. in the morning, you could order today's lunch. If it was after 2 p.m., you could order tomorrow's lunch, and that's all. Wait. You cannot cancel a lunch? No. If you order a cancel in 2 hours, no, you're not granted the right to cancel it. I'm sorry, you lost €7. What else? But what if the order happens in between 11 and 12? They cannot. The application is not working between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. But what if they cheat and they change their local time on the phone and they make it work against our will? They have lost €7 and they cheated on themselves. Who cares? I mean, this is a key point. This is a key point. You don't have to take care of all the corner cases to start. Okay, cool. This is the user story mapping. So basically, we had, if you know how user story mapping works, we decided to go 1 week after a week, after a week, after a week, releasing very tiny slices, with sometimes resorting to creative solutions, like removing features and being very extreme in the subset of features that we were releasing, which means, obviously, that a huge part of the potential users could be somehow disappointed. But who cares? When you are starting, who cares if you are disappointing 80 users out of the 100 that will discover your application? They will rediscover your application again if you grow up and be very big, because their friends are all telling them, this is amazing, I love this application. Oh yes, I tried to download it like last year. What happened? They improved? Yes, they improved a lot. Yeah, and they will download it again. It's not a problem. This is a kind of risk aversion that we removed with this way. In Startup Bootcamp, we help corporations. Mammoth was a startup. I worked with them defining the characteristics of the product. In Startup Bootcamp, I work with corporates. And we use Claudio Perrone, a friend of ours, Claudio Perrone's Popcorn Flow, which basically means creating experiments in order to validate assumptions on solutions for given problems and opportunity. And this is a weekly cycle that we use. Like, we have half a day, like say Tuesday morning, we gather with people in Barilla. It's just a fake account, so I never worked for Barilla, but that's why I can quote them. So we half of the Tuesday morning, we discuss about last week experiments, and we discuss the results with a clear and very objective report. I will tell you more about the structure of these experiments. On Tuesday afternoon, we develop hypotheses, and we say, hey, but if we learned this thing last week, if we learned that users prefer this kind of pasta rather than the other one, this might mean that maybe they want more short pasta rather than long pasta. I mean, this is very Italian examples. And we design experiments. We have then 1 day in which we work to set up those experiments, and we have 3 days to have those experiments run in order to meet the following Tuesday to discuss this again. So we had this weekly cycle in which, for example, we discuss like, hey, let's assume I was working for a coffee company, a huge Italian coffee company. So week 6, the opportunity was to, hey, what if we start exploring with functional coffees, which is not, I mean, coffee is already perceived as a functional drink. Sometimes you drink it to keep it awake. I mean, I'm talking to the right audience here. So caffeine, it was sold on ThinkGeek, okay? So, and what if we sell coffee with proteins, or coffee with melatonin, so that you get like the crack. So basically, it's like heroin and cocaine. So it's just like, okay. But I mean, we were trying all of them, and the experiment was to create advertising campaigns leading to fake landing pages, leading to a survey, so that we could select those interested in the value proposition, like, hey, are you interested in something that, coffee that might make you quieter? Yes. In the landing page, we described the product. So we are building this coffee we are making this coffee that is injected with hopium, and you will feel so much quieter in the end. Do you want to discover more? Yes, I want it. Okay, so this was the call to action. And so all of a sudden we had a proof of the problem market fit and a proof of the solution problem fit. And then in the end, they encountered a survey in order to now finally, so that we could interview people with high conversion characteristics rather than sending a survey to anyone out there. This is the kind of landing pages that we were doing. You see, Coffee Plus, Coffee Plus. This is a fake product, okay? This doesn't exist. So it was purely 100% fake. I will tell you more about the rewards for the users. And this is the typical report that we used, in which you can compare the click-through rate on the ads and in the landing pages. And this was a key point in our activity. You don't want those ads to work for real. It's not performance marketing. You're not, so like converting 1.71% might not look that great, but our point is that 1.65 is much less than 2.88. That is what is relevant. So comparing the conversion rate. Also, you might have noticed that Coffee Plus is a fake brand. Very often, we have our loss aversion bias is triggered by the equity, the value of what we already have, what we have to lose. So if I'm working for Adidas, probably Adidas is not available in putting their name on testing new shoes made of aubergines. Okay? And so this is a problem that we fixed by developing a practice of creating fake brands. So who cares? I mean, we can test aubergine shoes with a fake brand. If people will start thinking, hey, this is very dumb. I mean, what's the point of having shoes made of aubergines? But still, we're not ruining, we're not destroying anyone's reputation. This is, again, focusing on the impact rather than the probability that the reputation is ruined. Yes, I'm almost over. One other thing is a fake door. Do you know the concept? So we can de-risk a digital product by creating a fake door, which we did when we were developing this application called Ambrogio. Ambrogio is an application which we were trying to develop neighborhood concierge service, okay? So, hey, you are all living in the same area. Why don't you all gather around the service that somehow allows you to wash your laundry, make your laundry, or give homework support to the kids of the neighborhood, or shipping deliveries, services like this. And we created in this application that was already in use in a given area, in given areas, digital. Have you ever heard about smart cities? I mean, so basically it's like neighborhoods already served by a digital infrastructure. We gave those citizens, those residents, in their application, the choice for a new service that didn't exist yet, with a clear price point. And once they clicked on Prenota Subito, which is book now, they got the news that they had gotten a free Amazon coupon in order to compensate for the disturb, but the service was not existing yet. But we had collected clear, intentional data about their behavior in order to understand what was the service that was cared most about, and also what was the price point that might trigger their interest enough. Also, another second last example is my Scaling Tales. It's a company about personal branding that I founded in last July. We funded the company after 2 years of validation, working and creating value for the market with no official entity. And what we did is that we started from professionals I personally knew. And you might think, what is the point of validating a company if you start a business model, if you start from people that are already somehow tainting the validation if you know them, if they care about you. Maybe they want even to help you. That's a fair point. But the point is that you can somehow, when you're validating a digital product, you can cheat. This is not Olympic Games. This is war. And you want to validate maybe the feasibility of your process. We wanted to validate how we could provide personal branding services to the audience without caring about making them desirable and postponing decisions. That's the point. And so it's not a problem if you rely on, if you make it easier for you to test a part of your business model, as long as you don't forget that you are making it easier. And so we had clear in our mind that we were somehow selling this product to our friends, and that it might get harder when we eventually got out to the real market. Yeah, so basically it's perfectly fine to cheat in given circumstances. Also, it might help to, and this is the last one, there is this framework called Where to Play. I invite you to play with it. Sorry for the word game. Where to Play is, you find it at wheretoplay.co. It's somehow a companion for, have you ever heard about strategizers material? So like business model generation, testing business ideas, Alexander Osterwalder's material. So this is perfectly compatible, and it's all about having an attractiveness map of your idea. So digital products can be ranked along how challenging they are and how big is their potential. And so you can define different strategical ways. So you can have quick wins, you can have gold mines, and you can realize that a few ideas are questionable even before you even start investing in them. Getting rid of bad ideas is perfectly fine. You free your time, budget, attention, 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 attention. Attention is our scarce resource, not money. Money is almost infinite if you know how to pursue it. Question and answers. I mean, let me check. It's a 3-level check. Was it clear, understandable? Yes. Okay, was it consistent? So I started in a way and ended up in some way that is still consistent with how I started? A little bit, okay, fine. So how can I clarify the relationship between examples and the assumptions? Okay, fine. Okay, if it makes sense or not, this is the 3rd-level check. It's something that you might evaluate when you are basically colder about this, okay? So you can let me know on LinkedIn, you can write me, it was bullshit, or it was, I didn't understand that detail. I'm always available 24/7 on LinkedIn. You write me, I reply. You find me, as in Jacopo, Romei, everywhere. But what I want to close with is that we have to develop some sort of, risk is not local. Risk is never local. So what we do, we might look at the code, and then we might get fired because I saw it happening, because the country manager is having an affair with the global CEO. They break up, and then all of a sudden the strategical scenario changes, and your technical job depends on such a holistic risks. So what I'm saying here is that be paranoid, but don't get blocked by paranoia. Use your paranoia in order to isolate the dimension of the risking. If you feel that some risk is there, be creative on the ways you can de-risk that aspect of your activity. If you think you don't have an impact, it's not true. You can make your local, you might say, I'm a developer, I only have agency for the code. Then you can make your code less dependent on someone else's decision if you think about not just in terms of reducing the probability that something bad happens, but thinking in terms of how can you be more robust when that probability is the truth.
That also can relate on, instead of failing fast, it's like learning fast.
that's exactly, okay, fine. So I just repeat it for the video. So could it be related to the fact that we don't want to just fail fast, but we want to learn fast? Actually, that's what is always, we keep on forgetting in the formula, is that it's not fail fast, it's learn fast. Failure is the option to learn, one of the options. You can also learn from success, I would say. But still, you want to use that learning, you want to use that failure. Failing needs to be useful. But if you are dead, there is no entity to gather and to collect the meaning of those failures. So again, focus on surviving and exploit the bad time, the lucky shots, because that's the philosophy. If you are still there time after time, you will keep on learning, and failure will be the treasure we keep on telling ourselves it is, okay? So thank you, and 3 minutes, you find me everywhere in Jacopo Romei. That's all. Bye-bye.